Please be seated. Today is a very serious podcast, so it's so serious. We started it stepped.
It's so serious. It started with you saying, "I have a funny idea." We start by standing to pretend this serious. Sorry, continue.
Basically, as people may or may not know, you still have a couple of episodes of Bloodborne Up Close left to record.
Couple.
A few. And what people may or may not know is that you do your best to try and record these things. It's not that you're not trying, but it's not necessarily always working out due to...
Can I blame COVID?
What?
I don't know what influence COVID's had, but I feel like there's something in that.
Really?
Yes.
Aw.
COVID is somehow preventing me from doing something that requires me to stay home.
Oh, I thought you were being serious.
No.
You're joking. Oh, you're funny. You're a funny girl. But basically, I mean, we talked about this before. Like, it's just due to your past channel, Bloodborne Up Close is associated with a significant amount of stress.
It's getting better.
It's getting better. It's just not...
Yeah.
And like I said, you do try. It's not like you're not trying. It's just... You try, and it doesn't necessarily come out.
You holding
And so
chopsticks? Are you eating during this?
So what we're gonna do is, while waiting for Sophie to create her art, which she will create, it's just gonna take a little time, a little practice, a little self-care. In the meantime, we actually have a series that could sort of look at what Sophie's looking at under a different lens.
Just say it's what we're wearing.
So basically, the things that Sophie has left to cover, we're going to cover them in a What, Where, Why format for now, while she's working on the Bloodborne Up Close format.
Sure.
A little enthusiasm. I just say
First
the podcast
I've heard of this.
Yet again.
You just said it would be funny if we did Old Yharnam, and then you started eating. We're doing Old Yharnam.
Are you done?
Yeah. This is going to be weird, because usually locations of Bloodborne is something like... It would be like the little courtyard outside the church that leads to Old Yharnam, but you actually want to do Old Yharnam.
This is, what do you call it? We're innovating. Okay.
I feel like we've gone backwards. We're talking about like a broad topic. You're chewing. It's 3 a.m.
All right, Sophia, you ready for this?
I am so ready.
So, Old Yharnam.
Mm-hmm. Who suggested this?
You did. It's your Bloodborne Up Close.
Okay, suggested by me.
Well, if somebody else suggested it, please let us know in the comments. I don't remember. TBH.
Mm-hmm. I mean, technically, it was suggested by a lot of people on my old channel. Like, what are you doing Old Yharnam?
Oh, shade!
Ooh, in about 3 years.
Do you know how many What, Where, Why locations of Bloodborne were recorded?
No, because I'm not allowed to say. Because I'm not on the page.
What would be your guess?
20?
22!
Oh.
Good guess.
Thank you.
I thought we recorded a lot less for some reason, but...
Yeah. It feels like a lot more.
Okay. So, serious face. Actually, Let me put the bowl a little closer so you can reach it more easily. What is this face?
Serious
What is
face.
happening?
Serious face.
Okay. I got a new bottle of Coke so that my burps are more effective.
Oh, good, good.
For those who have seen, was it Sophie Sin or Leprechaun? I was not good at burping, but that's because it's a day old Coke. So
Yeah.
okay. You see, it's better already. Okay. Old Yharnam.
Mm-hmm.
Sophie,
Mm-hmm.
could you please tell me the official name in English?
Old Yharnam.
Tell me the official name in Japanese.
Old Town.
What? Why?
Because the old part of like Prague is called Old Town.
Well, that's amazing. I thought they named it after the song where it's like, I'm gonna take my horse, I'm gonna ride like no more.
Yeah, we've recorded two other things today. You can sort of tell.
Thank you, Sophie.
I didn't do anything.
Could you please describe Old Yharnam?
It's a whole city.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay,
We got
you're
time.
just.
We got time.
But okay. I don't know if you're going to leave the video in for this, but you said we got time. We got time while eating, which means talk while I'm eating.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So Old Yharnam is the old part of Yharnam,
Mm-hmm.
and we know it's the old part because the architecture is different.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little rougher, a little less refined, and it's also lower because Yharnam was built upward from very very far below. So as befits that, older parts of the city are lower. So it's this
Mm-hmm.
sort of like older. It looks like it's poorer as well. The buildings are smaller. It's in a little more disrepair. I mean, it's also on fire. That seems to be one of the major issues is that it's on fire. But like the buildings there are a lot smaller. Doesn't have the sort of like very refined like detailing that you see around Yharnam. It tends to be a little rougher. The
Mm-hmm.
designs on the buildings are also different. Like you have like the instead of the sort of the messenger gargoyles are there, but they're a lot sort of they look more raw. They have like big open mouths. They have like horns. There's sort of weird monster designs everywhere. So
Mm-hmm.
it's this older part of Yharnam. It's presumably also one of the poorer parts of Yharnam.
Mm-hmm. Why? Why do you say that?
Um, because that's where the healing church sort of decide to sacrifice, essentially.
Oh my god, I never thought of that.
Yeah,
But it makes sense. You don't
yeah,
set up in the rich neighborhood because
yeah,
people
yeah,
will notice that people are disappearing.
yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a river that runs through it that a lot of people don't notice initially because you don't really. There's not an angle in which you see the river, but if you actually angle the camera down, you can look at the river, and it's pretty big. There's a massive river that goes through the city.
So do you think they ever, like, disposed of corpses into the river?
Probably, yeah.
Wow.
I mean, they
Dark.
also burned them.
Oof. Oof.
They probably disposed of them in the river and then started burning them after that.
Huh.
Because they're disposing of them in a river in Forbidden Woods, I think. Because all this corpses there.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Man, Yharnam is messed up.
You know, now that you mention it,
Thank you, Sophie.
it really feels like 2018 again, right now. It's like, you're messed up. Whoa.
So is there anything else you'd like to tell us about Old Yharnam and its description and its lore?
Well, it connects to Yahagol
How?
through where Pal is. Like you can go out of Yahagol and go into Old Yharnam.
But you can't go from old Yharnam to Yahargul because of the little mountain.
You probably could initially,
Okay.
and it's like been because there's that other entrance to Yahargul that's bricked up, and like that's probably part of Old Yharnam.
That's right, at the very, very end, right? With some
Yeah,
items.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So like if you think about it, Yahargul was probably the Old Yharnam equivalent of Cathedral Ward. Like Old Yharnam was the residential area, and then Yahargul is the where the churches are. Although weirdly, like the Church of the Good Chalice is also a massive deal. So
Was Yahargul a poor area as well?
well, it's much closer. Well, no, it's very very ornate and very extravagant in its design. But it's pretty much just churches, which makes me think like that's kind of the Cathedral Ward equivalent of Old Yharnam because they're next to each other.
Because earlier you mentioned that Healing Church set up in the like poorer part, but if Menses set
Yeah,
up in the more ornate part, Menses don't care. They're just
yeah.
like, we're gonna kill a bunch of rich people. We don't care.
Well, we don't know who was left in Yahargul when Mensis showed up because it seems like it was the Spark Hunters. Like the thing is, the people of Old Yharnam worship the Church of the Good Chalice. They don't worship in Yahargul. It's
Hmm.
possible they don't even know Yahargul exists.
Hmm.
So it could be that like Yahargul's been abandoned for like hundreds of years at this point.
Hmm. That's really interesting. That's really interesting information. We'd need to have an episode on Yahargul. So is Yahargul or was it at some point part of Old Yarnum?
They're connected.
Yeah, they're connected, but was it one city or was it just
Well,
two
like
connected cities?
it's not really clear because like they're literally right next. You can walk from one to the other. So it seems like they're connected, but like also I think the way that like Yahargul, it could also almost be. I think you can read the character as like the hidden street rather than the city.
Mm.
And like Yahargul is just a street. Like when you look at the design, it's just a street. Starts at the bricked up wall and it ends where Mikolash is. It's just a very long line. And what you do in that area is you just unlock the various gates so that you go in a straight line.
You know what it makes me think of?
What?
Like Secret Street, meaning it's like under everyone's noses, but nobody really knows it's there unless you're like in the know. Like
Yeah,
it's almost like there's a cult that lives there and
yeah. So
they
there is a
know.
cult that lives there, called the School of Mensis, and they play quite an integral role in the story. So,
I,
you, I think you're onto something.
I meant what I meant is before Menses moved in, maybe this
Yeah,
was like another cult,
no, but
another
there probably was.
whoa.
No, but another thing, right, about the connection between them is that Yahargul is full of kin imagery.
Full of
Like it's
what
got
imagery?
like
Sorry?
kin. It's got like
What is
everything's like amygdala statues.
Oh yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, and like the like some obviously some of them seem to have been brought there, but there's like massive amygdala statues. The gargoyles have amygdala heads. There's all these
Hmm.
little statues that look like slugs. In contrast to Old Yarnum, which is all beasts.
Hmm.
So it's possible that like that is what happened. That Old Yarnum is a remnant of like there was some sort of schism. And there were a bunch of like, Bergenworth esque kin worshippers in Yahargul, and they split from Old Yharnam, and Old Yharnam went back to the beast blood worship.
Interesting. So if we go back to Old Yharnam, when was it built, you'd say?
A while ago. I mean, it's old.
It's in the name.
It's before the rest of Yharnam.
Hmm. And who built it?
The Yharnam might.
Were Thumerians involved in building it?
Well, I think at that point they'd stop being Thumerians. Because it's quite close. It's above the surface.
Yeah.
And it's not even like the closest thing to the surface. Because you can see if you look down, like the river is down quite low, so there's probably like other stuff down there. The whole point is like the people of Old Yharnam worship like the chalice.
Mhm.
So there's these remnants of those rituals. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's quite it's quite close to where they sort of. It's more like Thumaru than the rest of Yharnam, which is possible. I think that's probably another reason why they chose it.
Sorry, why? Who chose it?
The Healing Church.
And could you elaborate on that a little bit? What you're talking about exactly? The Healing Church in Old Yharnam.
One of the things about like the Healing Church in Old Yharnam is that this isn't ever. No one outright says this, but like it is true. This is like pretty indisputably what happened based on like they give you just a ton of circumstantial evidence.
Mm-hmm.
That this is what happened, even though it's like Yharnam being the descended from the Thumerians. No one actually says Yharnam is descended of the Thumerians. They just show you like a bunch of stuff in Thumaru and then a bunch of stuff in Yharnam that are the same, and they're like, by the way, like the queen of the Thumerians was called Yharnam.
Mm-hmm.
So like the thing about Old Yharnam is that was deliberately infected with the beast blood by the church. They sort of like, because I think, like I was saying, it was chosen because the people there were already obsessed with blood worship.
Mm-hmm.
And also it's like a poor place, and it's a place they could very easily just seal off. So they seeded beast blood pellets all over it, and then they basically wanted to see what would happen when the blood sort of went active, and that's why it's full of beasts now. And that's sort of the first time it had happened on that level, and it's why, like, Dura's whole thing is he and the other powder kegs showed up before, like, they knew what had happened. And they went through the city killing all the beasts, and then they realized what had happened. They didn't realize the beasts were the people of Old Yharnam. They probably thought the beasts were attacking Old Yharnam. So when Dura has the realization that, oh, okay, all these beasts are actually people, that's what makes him change. And say, no, I have to stop people killing the beasts. So it was this unprecedented thing, and it's like sort of foreshadowing what ends up happening to the rest of Yharnam.
Thank you, Sophie.
Thank you, Sam.
The last what question is, which materials were used?
Stone.
Mm-hmm.
Bricks, those are becoming a very popular material when discussing bricks.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember we did one of the parts of Old Yharnam is where and you started arguing about the roof.
No, I don't remember.
I remember it very distinctly because I got very frustrated with you.
What did I say?
You were insisting something about the roof of the church, like it was made of. You didn't know what it was made of because it did collapse. And then,
Oh my god. Thank you, Sophie.
Yeah. Water in the river.
But
trees.
Okay, yeah. This is like trees. Natural elements.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of more like man-made stuff.
Some of the trees were probably planted.
Oh, did they use any wood from the trees to build anything around?
Well, I don't know, because they look like they're decorative trees. I don't think you could really get lumber from them. It's the opposite of Forbidden Woods.
Whoa!
Forbidden Woods only has trees and all the stones rotting away, and this only has stone and all the woods rotting away.
How ironic.
Yeah.
A fitting end.
Fitting end.
So, Sophie.
Yes, Sin.
You did a lot of fuck. Let me.
You did a lot of fuck.
So, Sophie, For Bloodborne Up Close, you did a lot of research on this topic.
Yes, you did.
So could you please, if you have anything else relating to what to add to this
Mhm.
section, could you please do
Okay.
it now?
So an interesting thing about Old Yharnam is that if you look in the distance from most parts of Yharnam, you see all these places you don't go to,
Hmm.
like all these buildings and streets and things. Those are pretty much all Old Yharnam. They actually get the distance model of Old Yharnam and just clone it over and over and over and over again
Hmm.
to bulk out the skyline. And I think what it's sort of saying there is like most of Yharnam is actually quite similar to Old Yharnam.
Hmm.
And the part that we visit is the rich part. It's the more recent part. It's the part that seems to do like the contact with the outside world and trading and everything. Most of
Hmm.
it though is like Old Yharnam, and I think like maybe the reason Old Yharnam's the way it is because like it is that place that doesn't have contact with the world outside.
Hmm.
It is a very insular sort of old place, so they keep like the beast worship going there, whereas they don't keep that going in the upper parts. And probably also that again, like it being a poorer place, right? Poorer because it's not really doesn't have much economic contact. It doesn't really have. It doesn't really seem to trade or do anything. It's actually literally closed off. It's in a valley. Like there's no real way in or out of it other than the way that we take. So it's almost
Interesting.
like a ghetto in some ways. Like it's just this like very closed off space. Whereas if you look at like Yharnam, there's like these massive streets and canals and things that go off into the distance.
Thank you, Sophie.
Thank you, Sam.
Now let's move on to where.
Mm-hmm.
Where is it located?
You know Yharnam, the central
No,
Yharnam. Okay. So
no.
the Yharnam, there's a central Yharnam. That's where we start, and from
What's a
there,
Yharnam?
I think Yharnam. Yharnam has pretty shoes. So old Yharnam is underneath central Yharnam, and central Yharnam is underneath Cathedral Ward.
Whoa!
Whoa.
And where did the Healing Church set up its main base of operation?
The Grand Cathedral.
Yeah, so they set it up in the Grand Cathedral. And is that
Mm-hmm.
the richest part of Yharnam?
It looks like it.
But earlier we said they set it up in Old Yharnam because it's poorer, so they can
No, but
mess with people.
their base is in the Grand Cathedral.
Mhm.
The way they messed with old Yharnam is they got people to go and leave beast blood lying around.
Okay, okay. So they don't do the same thing in Cathedral Ward.
They do the same thing in Forbidden Woods, and I think they probably would do Cathedral Ward if Forbidden Woods didn't work out.
Interesting. Okay, thank you. And the same question in your Bloodborne up close research, did you find anything interesting about the wear?
Well, pretty much what I said before, where like most of Yharnam seems to look like old Yharnam. Um, yeah, so it's like it's the old part, it's the insular part, it's the poor part, and most of Yharnam seems to, we call it Yharnam, but like it's actually specifically Central Yharnam,
Mhm.
Cathedral Ward, and Old Yharnam.
Mhm.
So like Central Yharnam is not necessarily representative of the whole of Yharnam. It's just the central part. It's like, and being the central part, obviously, like it is the richest part. It is the
Mhm.
part that's getting the most contact with the outside world. Like any city, the central part is where most of the action's going on. And then like Old Yharnam is basically it's like one of like the outer suburbs of Yharnam.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Thank you, Sophie.
Thank you, Sam.
So now let's move on to why.
Okay.
Why was it built?
Where? So this is like I'm answering this question even though it's a troll question. Um, this sort of connects with what I was saying before, where like Old Yharnam is a city. It's like a very he calls it Gurman calls it a hamlet. Like it's a very small city in a valley, and it like I said doesn't seem to have much contact with the outside world apart from this the church. So it's like it's a city that's like it's like basically a road leading to a church with some buildings along it. So, if you can, so it was built as a place for people to live and worship. It's like a little self-contained place, and that I think, like I was saying, it differentiates it from the rest of Central Yharnam because Central Yharnam is a place that's built to have contact with the outside world.
Mhm.
Like it's full of very long, wide roads. It's full of aqueducts. It has docks for boats. Um, it seems to be near the sea. So you can say, okay, the purpose of Central Yharnam is like that's where all the trade is going, there's all this important stuff's going on. Old Yharnam is somewhere that is away from that. And it's about like it's a place built around worship. So you might think, and this is like an interesting thing that it's doing with the design, you might think, well, okay, in the case of most cities, what would happen is you would start at the place with the trade. You would start like near the river or something where all the trading is going on and everything's built up around there, and then as it goes outward, places are getting like I guess they're sort of getting poorer because they're further and further from the center of everything's going on. But Yharnam's actually the opposite of that because the places down the bottom, like Yharnam started at the bottom, it started in Thumaru and it built upward. So actually the rich part that is engaging with the outside world that people are stopping to see is the newer part. So it's actually like it's like an upside down version of how that would work if it were like a normal city.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you, Sophie.
Thank you, Sam.
So, what's its current purpose?
Its current purpose is to be quarantined. Its current purpose is you're not supposed to fucking be there.
Yeah. Except for
Yeah.
Chura.
Yeah. Well,
Well,
he
even
thinks you shouldn't be
Isbro.
there. He
Yeah.
doesn't think you should be there. He's like, yeah.
Hmm. Okay. Thank you, Sophie.
Thank you, Sam.
Who occupied utilized it before?
Humans,
Who occupies utilizes it now?
beasts, and dead humans.
So now, before we proceed to the optional question,
Mm-hmm.
is there anything else you'd like to add in any category? Any thoughts or lore about Old Yarnum?
Um, it's sort of referenced in the Hunter's Nightmare actually,
Oh yeah? How?
because the River of Blood, right?
Hmm.
The River of Blood is like a sort of it's not a metaphor because it's literal. Like it's one of those things. Like it's a metaphor that's made literal of what the Healing Church have done.
Hmm.
Where like what they have done is there is just this river of blood that is going downstream, representing like the city gradually falling to pieces as this river flows
Hmm.
throughout it. And the end of that river is the cave. And in the cave, there's a bunch of beast patients. There's the blood-starved beast, and there's a guy with a Gatling gun, which is what Old Yharnam is like.
Right.
So it's like basically as like awful shit is happening, it's being kind of restructured in the nightmare. So like Old Yharnam seems to be kind of if you view the nightmares like if you view its geography as also its chronology, Old Yharnam looks like it happened like right before the people of Yharnam turned on the church and Lawrence disappeared. Yeah.
Thank you, Sophie. And now let's move on to the optional question.
Alrighty.
If the location has no name, make up a name for it at the end of the episode.
Old Yharnam. Old Town. Too normal though.
So let's make a new name for Old Town or Old Yarnum.
Okay. Beastburg.
You know, I was actually thinking something
Yeah.
with Beast, and you said
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Beastburg.
It's like a
I
reference
love
to
it.
Undead Berg from Dark Souls, but now it's Beastburg.
I fucking love it. Berg, Bergen, Worth, Beastburg. It all comes together. Oh my god! Sophie! They're
What?
rivaling universities!
Oh, what's the fucking Old Yharnam University like?
Beastburg University, yes, because,
Where
okay,
is it?
in Old Yarnum,
Where?
uh, the place where we fight the blood-starved beast.
It's a church.
No, it's a university. We had it
Okay.
wrong.
Well, I mean,
And what?
there's a church on the way there, so like,
Oh,
I guess yeah. So maybe that is a university, and they just hid there after they got chased out of the church.
there we go.
You know, also the Healing Church is a church that's a university.
So it's okay. So it's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, yeah.
And okay, Sophie, because you have Bergenworth, Dignity City, and they're all about enlightenment, and they're all about like elevating their mind and blah blah blah, and they turn
The
into nuts.
question of blood versus insight. Sorry,
And-
and then what came over me?
And then we have Beastburg, and they're the opposite. They're like, no, it's cool to be a beast. We're going to drink all this blood, we're going to turn into beasts, and we're going to party, and we're going to have a good time.
So
And
it's like Animal House.
What's that?
It's like the rowdy frat boys. What if it's the other Bergenworth campus?
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Oh no, now we have a problem.
What?
This podcast has essential Snack Covenant lore.
Oh no. I'm just imagining, like, there's some important visiting dignitary going to Bergenworth. And he's like, well, Willem, I trust nothing unforeseen will happen during my visit. He said, oh, don't worry. I've expelled the rowdy members from our old Yharnam campus. And then, like, the blood-starved beast, like, swings in through the windows. Willem! I have to say that the collector's edition of Bloodborne I bought 6 years ago, it's really paid for itself.
So I'm gonna make 2 videos.
Mm-hmm.
One video is the one this was
Yeah.
intended as originally, with our video.
How can you say that you understand what Sin intended?
was saying the one that was originally intended for Patreon, with us starting this podcast standing up
Yeah,
because it's serious.
Yeah. Oh, that's right, we did. That was so long ago.
It was 40 minutes ago.
Jesus Christ.
But because some additional lore has come to light, I'll make a second version, which is
Okay.
going to be just audio, and I'll cut out a lot of it,
Yep.
and I'll post that version on YouTube.
Okay.
I love Beastburg. It's amazing. I'm gonna have to tweet about this as soon as I release the podcast.
What is the mascot?
Well, that's a good question. We're gonna have to.
Didn't we decide Bergenworth had a mascot?
Well, technically, I think a Brutus is Bergenworth's mascot.
Okay.
And they have their own signet with the Brutus and the horsefish.
That's true. I have that on a shirt.
Yeah, so Beastburg is gonna have to have another.
I've worn it outside of the house. People have seen Dignity City here.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
No one asked about it.
Sophie, do the outro.
That was What Were My Locations of Bloodborne episode 23, Old Yharnam. An impromptu episode Sin did to make me confront my demons.
Aww. I think it worked out really well, and we got additional lore, which I'm very happy about. This is one of the best lore moments we've had in a while, Sophie.
Yeah, I miss the episodes where we just come up with lore.
Yeah.
Where you just message me and we just start talking. I feel like lately they've been a bit too good. We've had a bit too much structure.
Yeah.
There are too many points to make. But it's nice to get back to our roots and just sit here and think, Christ, it's fucking 3:30 in the morning. What am I doing?
Thank you, Sophie.
Thank you, Sin.
And thank you, everyone, for listening. And see y'all next time. Bye.
Bye.